Guess who's back? Back again. Becca's back. Tell your friends. Hey friends, welcome back to my sewing room. My name is Becca, and in today's video, we are going to work on block number 6 for the Bliss Block of the Month. Now, if you don't know what this is, it's a Block of the Month program that is included for free in your Sew Sampler boxes. It starts shipping out April of every year and wraps up in March of the following year. For the Bliss Block of the Month, it started in April 2022 and will wrap in March 2023. Now, I've already done blocks 1 through 5, and I have videos out there for you if you would like to go take a look at them. Today, we're going to be working on block number 6. Before we get started, I want to let you know that this is a block of the month that's part of the Sew Sampler package, but you can still do it even if you don't get the box. In the description box down below this video, you'll find links to all the patterns for all of the blocks that have been released so far. So if this is something that you want to sew together from your stash and you just need the pattern, that's where you can find the patterns. And as always, this isn't my pattern, so I can't give you the cutting instructions. So we're just going to dive in, and I'll be referencing all of the fabrics the way the pattern does, but I won't be giving you the measurements. Make sense? Great. Let's get started. In step number 1, we're going to grab our A fabric and our D fabric, and we're going to put these right sides together and draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of one of the fabrics. It doesn't matter which one. And we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch away from that diagonal line on both sides. We'll cut it apart on that line that we drew, and that'll yield 2 half square triangle units per set of fabric. And since we're doing 4 sets, it should produce 8 half square triangle units. Once we have all 8 of these half square triangle units, the instructions want us to press our seams under fabric D. So to do that, we're just going to open up all of these pairs. I like to set fabric D on top when I'm opening it up, and that just means that when I use my finger to push the bulk of the seam over to the side, it's just automatically going underneath fabric D. Now that that's pressed, I'm going to take a minute to square all these up according to the pattern instructions. To square up my half square triangle unit, I like to take the 45-degree line that's on my ruler and place it right on top of the seam where the 2 fabrics come together, and make sure that I've got some excess extending past the top and the right side of my ruler, as well as the line that indicates what I will be squaring up to on both the left and the bottom part of the ruler. If I'm doing everything correctly, then I should have the points where all of those fabrics come together right in the upper left corner and lower right corner, or upper right corner and lower left corner. They should be opposite each other. Once you have all 8 of those squared up, you're going to assemble them to make a unit that looks like this. You should have your fabric D triangle pointing down and to the right, and your fabric A triangles pointing up and to the left. We're going to take this to our sewing machine and take a seam right along here and press the seam down towards the bottom unit. For the next step, we're going to use our fabric C squares and our fabric E rectangles. And we're going to snowball opposite corners along the short end of that rectangle. To do this, you're going to want to draw a line on the back side of your C squares from one corner to the other. And then you're going to take it to your sewing machine, and you're going to stitch just 1 thread to the right of that line that you just drew. And then you'll flip it over, make sure that everything lines up and your C square completes that 90-degree corner. If it does, you can trim a 1/4 inch away from that seam that you just drew. This is what is called the stitch and flip method. That piece that you have left over after you trim, you can save that to make a super cute, teeny tiny half square triangle unit later if you'd like. Or if you're not the type that likes to work with really tiny pieces, you can just discard that. Just make sure that when you're putting these units on, that they are running parallel to each other. The seam from the one on the top should be running parallel to the seam for the one on the bottom. Make sure that you're not making a flying geese. Now, this is where I messed up. If you'll look right here, I've got some units where the stripe is going down and to the right, and one where the unit is going down and to the left. And if I flip this around, it doesn't change anything. It's still going in the wrong direction. So I need to fix that. And the only way I can fix it is to cut some new fabric and start over. I can reuse these white triangles, but I won't be able to reuse the brown. So I need to cut some new rectangles and fix that. To fix my mistake, I'm going to rip the triangles off of all of the units that are pressed incorrectly, and then I'm going to press it so that they're laying a little bit flat and I don't have that fold in the fabric C square that's now really just a triangle. Once I have all of my triangles ready to go, then I'm going to very carefully place them on the fabric E rectangles in the right orientation and pay very close attention to how things are oriented when I take it to my sewing machine and attach it. So really quick, I just want to let you know, I made that mistake before. In fact, a few months ago, I sat down to record this block. I got this far and I realized I goofed up. So rather than fixing it, I just put the whole project on the shelf and had to walk away. So don't feel bad if you made the same mistake and need to rip your seams and start over on that step. It happens to the best of us. Now that I have 4 identical units, let's move on to the next step. We're going to take both units that we made before and lay them out so that the unit with the 2 half square triangle units has our brown fabric pointing down into the right, and then we're basically continuing this stripe. So when it's all put together, it should look something like that. You're going to take your seam right along here and you're going to press over towards the right. While there are no seams to match up on this, there is a point for those half square triangle units that you might not want to miss. So as I'm putting these units together, I am actually pressing with my half square triangle units on top so I can see that X intersection where the 2 fabrics meet. As long as my needle goes directly through that X or just stays a hair to the right of it, I won't lose my point. Now you should have 4 units that look just like this. There you go. The next step is going to be a whole lot easier. We're going to grab our fabric B and our fabric G and just make some 2 patches. Fabric B should be on top, but because this is not directional fabric that I'm working with, it doesn't really matter how I sew them together because they are squares. It just matters how I press the seam. Once those 2 patches are put together, we're going to press the seam up under fabric B. And for the case of my fabric kit, that is the lighter fabric, so you don't always press to the dark side. Now we need to build out our rows and put our rows together into our quilt block. We're almost done. For the 4 bigger blocks that we made, we're going to set them up in the 4 corners so that that longer stripe that we built is kind of framing the block overall. It's doing kind of like a diamond shape. In the middle, we're going to put our fabric H. And then in these spaces where we don't have anything, we're going to put our little 2 patch units with the lighter fabric pointing out and the fabric G pointing in towards the middle. We're going to sew this row, and then this row, and then we'll put all the rows together. Now, when you're sewing this together, you are more than welcome to stop and pin or clip if you want to make sure that all of your intersections are absolutely perfect. I typically don't pin when I'm making smaller blocks like this. I just do it by feel. What that means is I'm feeling for where the seams are nesting. If you take 2 seams that are pressed in opposite directions, they should kiss each other, butt right up against each other and lock in that position. You can feel when you roll those seams between your thumb and your forefinger if they are stacked on top of each other or if there is a gap. I tend to use my fingers to feel if the seams are kissing, and then once they are, I hold that in position until I get my needle and thread into that seam, and then I line up the next one by touch. Once your block is all put together, it's time to give it its final press. And the instructions actually told you to press that middle row out away from the center, but I felt like the block didn't want to go in that direction, and it was actually producing a lot of bulk for me. So I chose instead to press those seams in towards the center row, and I'm hoping that that will work out in my favor once this block goes together. I am operating with the basic understanding that typically these blocks of the month go into some sort of a setting pattern where there's negative space surrounding each block. So I don't think I'm going to have to worry about the bulk in any seams around the perimeter of the block when it's all said and done. And so that's it. This is block number 6 for the Bliss quilt along. It's done. That means I'm halfway there. Yeah, still got several blocks that I need to get caught up on, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because as I finish those blocks, you'll see them right here. Thank you so much for sewing with me, friends, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!